The football world is reeling from the devastating loss of Diogo Jota, the beloved Portuguese international and Liverpool forward, who tragically died in a car crash in Spain at just 28 years old. In the days since his passing, an outpouring of grief, love, and remembrance has poured in from around the world. But it was during his emotional funeral in Gondomar, Portugal, where the heartbreak of his loss truly came to life, through heartfelt tributes, tearful farewells, and a final goodbye that shook even the strongest hearts. Held at a historic church in his hometown, Diogo Jota's funeral brought together not only his closest family and friends, but also footballing greats, former coaches, teammates, and fans from across Europe. The venue was filled with floral arrangements in red and white, the colors of both Liverpool and the Portuguese national team. A large framed photo of Jota in mid-celebration stood near the altar, capturing the energy and passion that defined his career. The atmosphere was somber but reverent. A sense of stunned disbelief still lingered in the air. It wasn't just that a talented player had died. It was that a good man had been taken far too soon. Tributes were read aloud by club representatives, national football authorities, and childhood friends. Many spoke not just of his brilliance on the field, but of his humility, loyalty, and quiet strength off of it. Football stars and club managers sent both personal and public tributes. Liverpool manager Jürgen Klopp, though unable to attend in person due to scheduling obligations, delivered a video message played at the funeral. Diogo wasn't just a player. He was family. He trained harder than anyone, played with heart, and never sought the spotlight. We have lost more than a footballer. We've lost a wonderful human being. Portuguese national team captain Cristiano Ronaldo also sent flowers and a handwritten letter, calling Jota a quiet warrior whose goals were matched only by his humility. Representatives from Wolves, Pacos de Ferreira, and Atlético Madrid, clubs that helped shape his rise, were also present, each laying scarves and emblems at the front of the altar. Fans outside the church sang softly, holding candles and wearing jerseys with Jota's name emblazoned across their backs. But amid the sea of tributes and accolades, it was Diogo's family who carried the heaviest burden. His parents, Joaquim and Isabel Silva, sat in the front row, weeping openly. Jota's father held a framed photo of Diogo as a young boy in a football kit, a snapshot of the dream that became reality. His mother clung to her daughter-in-law and grandson, silent but visibly shaken. A prepared family statement was read by a close friend. To the world, he was Diogo Jota, the football star. To us, he was simply Diogo, a loving son, a gentle father, and a devoted partner. Our hearts are shattered, but his light will guide us always. No tribute, no speech, and no stadium chant could have captured the depth of grief more profoundly than the silent farewell offered by Rute Cardoso, the woman who stood beside Diogo Jota long before the world knew his name. In a moment that brought even the strongest to tears, Rute embodied both unbearable loss and unwavering love as she said goodbye to the man who was her partner, her best friend, and the father of her child. Dressed in black, her face pale from days without rest and eyes swollen from hours of crying, Rute entered the church with a heavy heart and a steady hand holding her son's. Despite the cameras flashing outside and the world watching closely, her focus remained solely on the man in the casket and the boy beside her who still didn't fully understand what had happened. Throughout the service, Rute sat silently in the front pew, her son nestled against her, his small hand wrapped in hers. She did not speak, but her grief spoke volumes. While friends and fellow footballers remembered Jota's goals, his passion, and his quiet strength, Rute remained composed until the moment came to say goodbye. As the service came to an end and the church bell tolled softly in the background, Rute stood. She took a deep breath, bent down, and whispered something reassuring to her son, then walked slowly down the aisle toward Diogo's casket. The wooden box seemed impossibly heavy, not just from its physical weight, but from the finality it represented, the closing of a chapter they thought would last a lifetime. Every step Rute took was followed by the silence of hundreds holding their breath. She was not walking as a public figure. She was walking as a woman whose world had been torn apart. As she approached the casket, her son squeezed her hand tighter. She leaned down, gently placed a kiss on the polished wood, and whispered through trembling lips, "You'll always be with us, in every laugh, in every dream, in every little boy's goal." It wasn't a speech, it wasn't rehearsed. It was a spontaneous, soul-bearing whisper meant for Diogo, a man who had given her laughter, hope, and a family. In that moment, the air shifted. Even the clergy paused, visibly moved by the raw emotion that filled the sacred space. Some of Jota's teammates lowered their heads, shielding their faces as tears welled up. One player, seated nearby, could be seen visibly shaking, unable to contain his grief. Coaches stood with hands pressed tightly together. Friends cried openly. Journalists, typically detached by necessity, put down their cameras. This was not a photo op. It was a human breaking in slow motion. It was a scene that captured more than the loss of a gifted footballer. It revealed the cruel reality of sudden death. The dreams undone, the conversations unfinished, the futures erased. Diogo Jota wasn't just leaving behind a team. He was leaving behind a home, a woman who loved him deeply, and a son who still called out for his father every morning. What made Rute's goodbye so powerful wasn't its poetry, it was its truth. Her voice cracked not for drama, but from the agony of letting go. She didn't cry for the cameras. She cried for the life they built, the son they raised, and the promises that now could never be fulfilled. Her words, "in every laugh, in every dream, in every little boy's goal," weren't just sentimental. They were an unshakable vow to carry Diogo with her, to raise their son in his memory, and to ensure that his legacy lived not only on the pitch, but in the love that started in a quiet corner of Portugal long before the headlines ever came. Following her whispered farewell, Rute remained at the casket for a few moments more, her hand resting gently where his heart once beat. She didn't need to say anything more. The message was clear. He may be gone, but his presence would never fade. When the casket was lifted and carried down the aisle, Rute and her son walked behind it, surrounded by close family. Her expression was vacant, her steps heavy, but her grip on her child never loosened. She was a mother in mourning, but also a guardian of memory, prepared to carry the love they shared forward. Outside, as the casket was loaded into the hearse, fans stood in silent tribute. Some reached out their hands, others dropped to their knees. But all eyes returned to Rute, the woman who had lost more than anyone else, yet found the strength to say goodbye with grace. Rute's farewell reminded the world that behind every celebrated figure is a private life, a world of quiet moments, deep devotion, and shared dreams. Jota wasn't just a footballer. He was a partner who held her hand through life's highs and lows, a father who stayed up late telling stories to their son, a man who found joy in family dinners more than fame. Her goodbye was a final act of love, not the end of their story, but the start of how she will carry him with her, in bedtime stories, in birthday candles, in the first time their son scores a goal and looks toward the sky. And in those few whispered words, Rute Cardoso didn't just break our hearts. She reminded us of what love looks like in its purest, most painful form, eternal, even in the face of death. Following the funeral, a national day of mourning was observed in Portugal. In Liverpool, Anfield's famous Shankly Gates became a memorial site, covered in scarves, flowers, candles, and messages of love. Fans across the Premier League in Europe observed moments of silence before matches in the days that followed. Liverpool FC has since confirmed plans to honor Jota with a mural near Anfield and to retire his number 20 shirt for the remainder of the season. The Portuguese Football Federation has also announced that an annual youth tournament will be named in his honor. In a gesture of hope, Jota's family announced the creation of the Diogo Jota Foundation, which will support underprivileged children in Portugal and the UK through sports scholarships, training programs, and school support. The foundation will serve as a living tribute to a man who never forgot his roots and who believed in using football to lift others. The loss of Diogo Jota is not just a personal tragedy, it is a cultural one. It reminds us that behind every superstar is a human being, someone with a family, a child, and a life full of unfulfilled plans. His story will live on not just in highlight reels or statistics, but in the hearts of those he touched. Rest in peace, Diogo. Gone far too soon, but never forgotten. Your goals thrilled us. Your humility grounded us. Your love will live on.